Well, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Anthony Castaneda, he, him pronouns, and we're going to begin by introducing the folks who are on the stage with me today. And it's an incredible honor to share this stage with you. I have spent the last decade in the city of Portland and have seen these folks move, be movers in the community and really invest in this community, in the city of Portland, which makes it very special. I think that's what was reflected in this previous election. So without further ado, let me begin by introducing everyone. Michelle DePass works as a climate policy analyst for the city of Portland on a climate team. Her responsibilities include working on research and enforcement of a renewable fuel standard, helping to collect commercial building energy use data, and maintaining relationships with strategic partners. Michelle also serves on the Portland Public Schools Board of Education as the vice chair, focused on delivering improved outcomes for all students, especially students of color. Michelle holds an MBA in Sustainable Business from the Bainbridge Graduate Institute and a Bachelor of Science from the Toulon School of Urban Studies and Planning at Portland State University.
Very nice.
Yeah, thank you. Next, we have Steph Routh. Steph Routh is a community organizer with over 20 years of experience supporting policies, projects, and organizations that nurture communities that bring belonging and in which everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Steph was the first executive director of Oregon Walks, the state's walking advocacy organization. She has taught for the last 4 years as an adjunct professor at Portland State University's Toulon School of Urban Studies and Planning, specializing in community organizing and social change coursework. Steph is a policy and organizational development consultant who has worked with electeds in groups such as Senator Confam, Portland City Councilor Tiffany Koyama Lane, the City of Tigard, Oregon's Kitchen Table, and Neighbors for Clean Air. She has served on Portland's Planning Commission for 6 years and currently has the honor of serving as its chair. In 2024, Steph ran for Portland City Council to represent East Portland in its new form of elections in government. Her dog's name is Olive. Okay, next we have Debbie Kitchin. Debbie Kitchin is a mom, small business owner, and passionate advocate for equality. For over 40 years, Debbie has worked with local governments, organizations, and businesses to strengthen our community and our economy. She was born in Kansas and came to Portland to Reed College. She fell in love with Portland and stayed, making Portland her home for nearly 50 years. Outside of work and family, Debbie has been an active volunteer for organizations and community committees. She is a committed champion for small business. She served on the boards of economic development entities, including Greater Portland, Inc., the Central East Side Industrial Council, and the Central East Side Together. She is past president of the Energy Trust of Oregon. She served as chair of the board of the Portland Metro Chamber. Debbie has also served on advisory committees for Portland Public Schools, the Port of Portland, and Prosper Portland to elevate our small businesses, especially BIPOC-owned businesses. And recently, Debbie was a member of the Portland Charter Commission. I am nearly out of breath just trying to name all the accomplishments. Okay. So I think for today's panel, we wanted to start and allow each panelist to introduce themselves and speak for a few minutes about the process that they went through and how we got here today.
What's the mic situation? There's also mics there. Are we just passing one?
Are these ones on?
So these are not hot. They're dead. Okay, they're dead. Okay, so I get to go first. First of all, welcome to those of you that aren't from Portland. My name is Michelle DePass. I was born here. I don't say I'm a native anymore. I was born here, but I almost immediately, went off to South America with my family. I lived in Venezuela for a few years, came back to Oregon, and kind of have bounced around, but between Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles and Guadalajara, Mexico. But I've been in Portland for the last 30 years or so as an adult, and serve on the school board right now, the largest school district in Oregon. I live in the neighborhood that I was born into in Albina, which is a historically Black neighborhood that has suffered decades of gentrification and residential displacement. And I'm telling you that. Also, an interesting fact is I grew up in a commune, the Black Panther Party commune. So I have like liberation school in my background too. So I think people see me as like a middle-aged person, and I consider myself a middle-aged person that's like deeply grounded in community. In 2017, I took a training called the Emerge Oregon program, which I think all three of us have done. And by the way, I'm so happy to be sitting here with Debbie, who I've known for many years. She was a life raft in the storm of like Republican male people. And I was an energy trust contractor, and Steph is a dear friend that I have enjoyed organizing and getting in trouble with over the years. So I'm deeply rooted in the community that I live in and I raised my kids in. And in 2017, I took this training for Democratic women that wanted to run for office, thinking like I could help other women run for something, because I had no idea about like door knocking. I didn't know anything. Fundraising. In 2019, there was an opportunity to run for the Portland School Board. And in these races, they're typically, in the race 2 years prior, we had fundraising amounts of $230,000 for a school board race versus $180,000 versus $160,000. That's what it would cost in Portland to win a Portland School Board race that doesn't have any stipend or pay with it. So people do it for other reasons besides the pay. So I've been on that panel on that board for about 6 years now. Really proud. We have a bond measure on the ballot next month, a $1.8 billion bond measure, and I'm really, really proud of the 2020 bond measure that resulted in a Center for Black Student Excellence that is in progress right now and needed. Our district has not figured out how to educate Black and brown children. And so I'm here on the board for 2 more years, and that's what I'm 100% focused on. Thank you.
You can keep that mic.
There you go.
This is on. Hi, team. It's wonderful to be. I'm really nervous. I think in part because this is a different conversation than I think a lot of us have had previously. I also want to. I'm a crier, and I'm over caffeinated. So I just want to note that going out, I love you too so much. It's so wonderful to be on the stage with you. I also want to note this moment in our history. It is such an honor to be in a room with people who care so deeply about democracy that we're willing. I know, we're like, this is therapy. And it's deeply meaningful to be here with you. I also want to give you homework because I have been an adjunct faculty. If you have not listened to, there was a recent, it's Pod Save America. They did an interview with Congresswoman Sarah McBride. If you have not listened to it, please put that on your list. I was listening to it again this morning. And one of the things that she says, she's the first transgender person in Congress, and one quote that she says that really stuck with me was, if everyone shows up with a little bit of courage, no one has to be a hero. And I think that a little bit of courage from everyone is also the embodiment of what democracy is at its core, what participatory democracy is, and just by being here and by being a little courageous every day, you are participatory. That is a service to democracy, and I'm grateful for everything that you do in your communities that allows that. I believe candidacy is also a service to democracy, and independent of electoral outcome. I know that the title of this breakout session is the non-winners, and I want to reframe that. and Colin and I talked about this before. So this is hi Colin. That it's true that we did not get a seat on city council. Also, and I'm going to swear, sorry, we totally fucking won. So thank you. And also, have we seen what city council is and how it is moving? The Zenith resolution conversation in and of itself was such a testament to how wonderful, like the success, the absolute success that is multi-member ranked choice voting system. Like that was just the embodiment of it. And I just want to celebrate that. So I want to, let's see, what was our campaign, when I came in really early. So I was born in East Portland, which has, as you saw, lower turnout than anywhere else. I've lived the majority of my life in East Portland. And so when the new district lines were drawn, it was that I was just like, I want to serve as a candidate, and again, independent of electoral outcome. And we came in, I came in really early, and we came in with 4 goals in order of priority. The 4th goal, in the least important of those 4 goals, was for me to have a seat on city council. Number 1 goal, because we were moving to a new form of elections, and I'm sorry, I'm going to blow my entire wad in the first 5 minutes, and then like I'll let everyone else go. Because this is a new form of elections, it advantages, and all studies demonstrate that it advantages a positive vision of a future, as opposed to tear down politics of a pick one winner system. So I wanted to get, yes, let's thank you. Love it. So the first, what we wanted to do on our campaign was to encourage and lead in a more nourishing, collaborative form of government. And I've heard folks afterwards say, you didn't win, which I was like, totally won. Didn't win because you collaborated too early. I'm like, that is exactly why I got in, so thank you very much. So, and I think that we really did it. We took a lot of work. We did a lot of work on that as a campaign. Second one was to build the bench and diversify the political ecosystem in every possible way. One of those ways was one of the first hiring decisions or vending decisions you have to make as a candidate is to have a treasurer or compliance person. There is really only one and a half, hello, Becca, group in town that does that for most folks. And we were like, monopoly and democracy are mutually exclusive concepts. So we found someone, and Monica Santoyo took a chance on us. I know, thank you. Yeah. Monica, celebrate her name. Took a chance on us. We took a chance on her, and that was a really critical component. We did not have any vendor who had done that work before. We did not have any person on our staff who had ever done that work before. And we were building, because we're like, we're never going to have a 15-month election cycle, campaign cycle, and that is the time that is what community organizing needs to look like, and that is how you build the bench, that is how you diversify the political ecosystem. Because I think one thing that we see a lot in electoral politics, and we continue to see, is you get a whole bunch of field organizers, you get them at the beginning, like earnest, wonderful, young, idealistic folks, and then you run them into the ground, and then you burn them out. And so you find these amazing people who care deeply about democracy, and you get them at the beginning and what turns out to be the end of their political careers. And that is not acceptable, and we cannot have that because we see what is happening at the federal level. We absolutely cannot have that. So that was goal number 2. And I will stop there because I have taken a lot of time, and you need to hear from Debbie Kitchin.
Well, that was fantastic. I mean, just awesome. And I love being on this panel with all of you. Anthony and I were co-chairs for the Charter Commission at the same time, and we had a shared leadership model on the Charter Commission. So there were co-chairs. The co-chairs changed every 5 months or something like that, so that he and I served together in that role, and it was great. And as I mentioned, I was on the Charter Commission. And for me, that was a journey of discovery and learning and really getting in touch with what my views and my values. We really worked on that a lot on the Charter Commission. What the values of our approach was, and it was a very tough thing. I went on the Charter Commission thinking, what's most important is changing the form of government, moving away from the commission form of government into, a council mayor form or some other type that was much more common. But in the process, it was a journey of discovery for me to hear from Portlanders about how disenfranchised they were, how much they felt that they did not have a voice, how much they felt disconnected from their local government. And the local government is what we should be the most connected to. It's what has an impact on our lives every single day. It is, I think, the most important form of government because of that, because of the impact that it has on all of our lives. So it was a journey of discovery for me. I had not anticipated working on election systems, but hearing from Portland voters about just how they felt, how disconnected and disenfranchised they felt was heartbreaking. And learning about the new systems, I mean, that opened the door, hearing from Portlanders. But then the data that MED provided and the analysis and modeling and everything, that's what clinched it for me. So I really started to understand how representation happens in these proportional representation systems and became an advocate. So I helped with the campaign, really was thrilled when it passed here in Portland, and then decided, because there were still naysayers. There are naysayers from the establishment, both longtime political activists or actors and the general business community, the larger business community. They were very much against this. Me, as a member of that community, former board chair of the Chamber of Commerce, I mean, there was a lot of, I got a lot of pushback, and there's people that still won't talk to me today that are very angry about the position that we took, because it did change the power structure in our city, and it was that type of structural change that we need. So anyway, that is so my decision to run was about, let's make sure this works. I really, as a small business owner for 30 years, I've put together plans, actions. I thought if I was on city council, I could make sure that this works. But I am thrilled with how the voting turned out. I mean, I'm disappointed that I didn't win, but I think the results speak for themselves. We have more diversity in ages, in points of view, in ethnic and racial components, just across the board. And if you look at how the city council is operating now, it is night and day difference. There's much more openness, much more transparency. The city councilors are out over and over again doing community, meet and greets and all kinds of sessions. This only happened in election years before, where existing sitting city council members would be out in the community. They are out in the community all over the place. As far as the election, it was a joy and privilege to run. I learned so much. I gained so much from it. I don't feel, I want to redefine what losing is too, because I just feel like it was a great learning experience and a great connecting experience to so much wonderful things that are happening in Portland, so many wonderful people. The other candidates, there were 98 of us, and we got to play together a lot during the campaign. We went on bike rides, we went on swim trips, we went on, field trips, and we saw each other every day and checked in, and it was very collaborative. We did a lot of joint events, different groupings of candidates. We did feel a lot of organizations really organized to educate us about what their issues were, and that was helpful because it was a lot of new people who had never run. I've never run. I did go through the Emerge program and learned a lot there, but boy, there's nothing like doing it. So I just feel like it's been a wonderful thing. And my mission now is to make sure that this council is very successful, that we don't have a pullback on this system. I think it's at risk every single minute, and we have to be vigilant to keep it in place. There are powers that be that just would like to get rid of it because they saw the power shift that happened when we had this election.
Well, thank you very much. It was you've heard this phrase a lot throughout, beginning yesterday, and you're going to hear it more today. Is that this was an historic election? There is over 100 candidates vying for 12 seats on the city council and the mayor position, and so you started to touch on this, and I have a whole list of questions, but we want to create space for one or two questions as well. So I'm going to try to ask one and consolidate it into one. Keep your answers a little bit more brief so we can get to those questions from the audience. And so I think it's a very simple question is, what really motivated you to run for office? And how would you describe your strategy in a crowded field of candidates? And what did you take away from that experience? Or maybe what did you learn about yourself throughout that experience as well? And we can start with whoever wants to go first.
So I'll focus on, I did learn a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about how to run a campaign. And whether I run again in the future or not, I will be helping other people run because I did learn a great deal about it. There were things that I realized in hindsight that I should have done, but it also was just day after day. I mean, some of the things that I love are canvassing. I love going door to door and door knocking. I love talking to people, and I had so many people that had never had a city council candidate come to their door, and that happened over and over again. And they were so excited. Sometimes the conversation, which they tell you never do this, but I don't follow orders very well. Small business people, we don't follow orders very well. We're kind of a little independent. So anyway, sometimes it would be a 45-minute or hour-long conversation on the doorstep. I love that part and would love to do that more. And, I think that in the crowded field, it was hard to stand out. There were a lot of us that had similar positions. There were a lot of us that were endorsed by similar organizations or the same organizations. There might be 6 people endorsed in our district by an organization, and that's, you might get on the ballot, but you don't necessarily get that first choice. So it is challenging. But the other thing I wanted to say is we're never going to have this many people running again because we're not going to have all 4 districts. We set up a system of staggering. So districts 3 and 4 will run in 2 years, and then everybody will have 4-year terms, but we'll only have 2 districts running at once. I think that was complicated and overwhelming for some people, like reporters who kept, talking about, oh, it's so chaotic, it's just going to be a mess and all that. But I think we can see from the data that voters figured it out, and they were able to focus on their district.
I think I've mostly answered this question, but I'll say one thing I learned candidly. I think I intellectually knew it, but it made me feel. I'll do the Debbie Downer one, not you, Debbie. Debbie Downer one first, and then I'll move to the other, which is I learned on a different level how little the rest of the city understands about East Portland, and particularly legacy media. It has been really it was really disheartening and I think like it's really helped me reflect that most there were a few other candidates who all of their work has been in East Portland, and they did not, and I will say their names, Cale Turn, David Lynn, did not get really any press because all of their accomplishments were in East Portland. And legacy media has not paid attention, and so their stories did not matter. And I think that that is one thing that I really want to see in future. I expect that there to be a deeper understanding of the people who really come from those districts to be elevated, because that really like Cale is an absolute treasure, and the fact that he didn't get much play makes me really upset. Like when I think about it, it makes me really upset. But to Debbie's point, canvassing was just an absolute phenomenon. It was just, especially in East Portland, to have the excuse to go out and just share the good news that like your vote actually matters now. I think in future, when we talk about voter like turnout, we have in District 1, we have over 40% are non-affiliated voters. So the fact that we have a closed primary system, like we need to open that primary system because why should people vote? Most of those decisions are already made in the primary, which over 40% of District 1 voters can't even get to. So what's the point?
I think I don't know how to follow that. I don't think that is this on? Can you hear me? Yeah. You also in District 1 have a high number of Trump vote, a higher number compared to the city as a whole of people that vote for Trump. So that's an interesting tidbit. Debbie and I ran in the same district, so we were one of I think 2 of 23 candidates. I was motivated to run. So I work for the city of Portland. I work in climate. I'm going to say a Black woman in climate, and it's rough out there. I ran because I wanted to see things improving with the city, even knowing that city councilors wouldn't have purview over organizational things, but I would advocating for things such as a data center. I feel like the city needs to improve its data collection and data sharing information for the 21st century. Taxpayers, voters, residents need to understand their city, and that was one of the things I thought we could improve on. I'm also just motivated because I come from a district that has had very few elected representatives, particularly African American representatives, throughout our city's history. I was motivated to do that. I'm also really motivated to not just work within the district that I live in and was raised in for the most part, but looking at the city as a whole and not wanting to be part of the Portland doom and gloom, but to be part of actually, a booster for Portland, someone that could help create a vision to bring Portland back economically, socially. So yeah, I was motivated for those reasons. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that was great. Thank you. I'm seeing Colin, and Colin says we have a little bit of time, maybe for one question. And so,
yeah, so we can carry the mics. Bad communication on our end, but we have more mics under the under your chairs, just like Oprah, right? There you go. No. Yeah, you're all good. Hello. And then Anthony, we have got one for you. Oh my God, we're doing great. So we've got some mics moving around. Norma's got you there, and then I'll have you go ahead and field the questions. I'm just going to move the mic around. You tell me who to call on.
Thank you, Colin. All right, so we have one question right here.
Thank you very much. I appreciated everything you had to say. I'm Valerie Lemmy from Dayton, Ohio, with the Charles F. Kettering Foundation, and I'm curious, will you run again?
That's a question I've been asked a lot, and I would say, prior to this campaign, I said I would never run for anything I couldn't win. Now I'm saying I would run if it were the right time. Having learned what I learned about this last campaign, I would run again if the time was right. And so, of course, I'm waiting for one of our elected members to like royally screw up. That's a non-political answer, but it's the truth.
Oh, okay. Well, or yeah, I think I already kind of answered. I will run again if the if the right circumstances come up. But if I don't do that, I will help other people get elected because I learned so much. And I like, there's so many elements of it that I really love. It's really energizing. It's rewarding. There's a lot of things about it I love. So, I would definitely either run for office myself or help somebody run for office.
Probably not for city council. Probably not for city council.
A quick note, in 2 years, there's a school board opening in District 2 where I live. If anybody's interested, I would love to tell you about the job. And it will come, by that time, it will come with a stipend of about $500 a month, which is not what Los Angeles School District pays, $125,000 plus a car plus 7 staff, but it's more than zero.
Yes. Hello.
Oh.
Someone?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Michelle Whitaker with Ranked Choice Voting Maryland. So really curious to know in terms of how you all did with, you talked about base building or building up the bench for other candidates. If you all aren't running or if you're just trying to look and build that. And two, as someone who's been a campaign manager, what were kind of the calculation in terms of what you were doing in terms of hitting the doors, what your targets were, and maybe if you had some overlapping pitches, particularly, was it Michelle and Debbie, about if you like Debbie, I hope I can be your next choice or whatever, if there's things like that happening.
Yeah, there definitely was and we were asked often at different forums and things, who were we aligned with or who would we like to serve with? That was the question often, is who would we like to serve with? And so Michelle was often on my list for that. I mean, very frequently. Yeah, and then there would be joint coffees or joint events. But, and then in terms of strategy, I think that there definitely was times where it was do everything all, there were some trade-offs that you had to make budget-wise, more mailers or more digital. Our team went heavily into digital advertising rather than mailers just because of the cost difference and where my budget was. But, there were some trade-offs. And I will say on the independent expenditures, we heard about a couple of efforts today, but just from my knowledge of the business community, there was the independent expenditures from the business community was very big. I think they spent about $1.3 million. That included 2 Multnomah County Commission seats that they were that they had independent expenditures on, as well as they spent on 12 candidates and 6 of their candidates got elected. So they had far more money, I think, than anybody else on the independent expenditure side. So even though we have small donor elections and we have this matching money from the city that really gives people an opportunity to run, I think it's really hard to win and to get your message to voters unless you can benefit from some of those independent expenditures. So it's, parts of it are leveling the playing field and parts of it aren't.
I have a question about that though, but has anybody done an analysis of the cost per vote? Because in my case, I didn't raise as much money as some people did. I came in 5th. I would have needed to be 3rd, and I started later campaigning and never hit the 2nd or 3rd tiers.
Right. No, I think there was a little bit of, there were some articles that came out, I think, from Willamette Week that looked at some people, and they were only highlighting the people who spent a lot of money per vote. But, I haven't seen a very comprehensive analysis of that. there's a lot that could be researched. If you're doing research on elections, there are such a deep database here, I think would be really fun to. I used to be an economist, so I kind of like numbers and research. My first career.
I'll answer your question slightly differently, and thank you for it. What happened after the election? Our strategy after the election, because we, one, our team is so awesome that we've actually continued to meet monthly because we're like, we don't want to let a little thing like the fact that there isn't an election keep us from meeting. So we, so we have dinner every month and we still do it. And part of that is also like, what do people need? Like, how is everyone on that team? Like, Jose Gamero-Georgeson is currently running for a school district. Like, what do you need? How can we support? There's someone else who's thinking about running. Like, how do we, and we start strategizing. There's a couple of folks, one person who's now senior policy aide for Councilor Green. And so we were working on, like, how do we get our people into City Hall so that they can support in that way. So part of that building the bench, I know, part of that building, I love you, Robin. Part of building the bench is what happens afterwards and how are we supporting people through and into new opportunities. Yeah.
Thank you. Did you want to add more?
Well, I was just going to say that there are quite a few candidates who took staff positions for the new city council. I haven't done a full count, but I think there's at least 5 or 6 or 7 or something. So anyway, but that also happened. Anyway.
Hi, Jean Massey with Fair Vote Minnesota. I want to thank you for being on a panel like this. In Minneapolis and other cities in Minnesota, we give a lot of opportunity to people who run and don't win and those who do win. And the public learns equal amount of value of what this really means for democracy and for campaigning when all candidates have an opportunity to speak. So thank you for doing that. My question is this: when I saw the profile of breakdown of different kinds of candidates and those who were seated, we talked about gender and age, race, ethnicity, et cetera, but we didn't talk about the political spectrum so much. So my question is, in the community, how many would be defined as on the conservative scale? How many candidates who are conservative ran, and how many won?
I don't know that I have that off the top of my head. And in Portland, the spectrum is kind of what you would consider moderate, conservative, Democrat to progressive. So, but I don't really have a count for that.
Yeah, I don't either. It's a great question, though. I would say we don't, like in terms of, how traditional conservative, I wouldn't say anybody that ran. But it's Portland. We consider ourselves progressive here. It's just it's a spectrum.
I'm going to answer with a short story, which is because I live in, I think, one of the more conservative, census tracts, and it's one of the most diverse census tracts in the state, and it's also one of the more conservative ones. It's just interesting. I was canvassing my neighbor behind, like, we share a back fence together, and we like hang out and as soon as I went to their front door this time and was like, hey, I was like, I'm running for office, and they're like, oh, you're like running for office, and then she just like, her voice, like everything changed, and she was like, Democrat or Republican? And I was like, I'm a Democrat. And she like took my lit and she ripped it up in front of me and said, nah, sorry. And it occurred to me afterwards, it took me a day to process, because I was done with canvassing that day. But she said, like, I was like, how sad, like, she doesn't actually really have a choice. There's only one independent. Everyone else even though it's more conservative in District 1, they only had one who wasn't a registered Democrat on the list. And I was like, she doesn't actually, I had a moment, I was like, she doesn't actually have a choice. So that's what.
Well, that's why I asked the question, like, how politically diverse is PRCV in Portland providing an opportunity for that broader political spectrum?
I think we're probably going to need at least another cycle for that to rectify.
Mm-hmm. or to see. Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Well, again, is this on? I see what you're saying. You don't know if it's on. Again, thank you for joining us today and sharing your experience with the crowd and everyone who is attending today. And can we please give them another round of applause?